Thank you. Yes, so what's important for me to say about Pernille is that she's my mentor, my teacher, a person who's supported me a lot, someone who inspires me a lot. And I've known her for 3 years, I think. I started needs-based coaching with her. And over the time, I just have a sense that there's still more to learn from her, and I want to keep learning from her. And I also want more people to get to know her, so that this beautiful wisdom can be spread around the world. So yeah, I'm glad that we can be here tonight. And Pernille, what would you like to say about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say that I'm a grandmother. I'm a small farmer. But more than that, I think I'll say a little bit about my history that has brought me here. So I came from a nice middle-class family, and it was in the cards that I would study and be an academic and become a part of running this society in Denmark. And I didn't. I rebelled against everything. I found a man who became the father of my children, who was certainly the opposite of what my parents would have enjoyed to see. He wasn't my favorite either, to be honest, but there must have been something about the difficulty of this man with long hair, no education, alcoholic, sometimes violent toward me, that attracted me. And I found out later what it was. That he was the one who gave me the experience of belonging anywhere. Because even though I came from this nice middle class home, this was a home where children were meant to be seen, never heard. And I was the last of 3 siblings, and my mom was tired of going home, of being at home. So she was on her way to the labor market, and I felt quite left on my own. And so I married this guy, and it was so good for me. That's what I can see in hindsight. Because before then, I thought I had the right answers, and he was obviously, in some ways, a bad person, and he didn't do what I told him to do. So I hit my ground, my bottom, quite hardly. This story is already getting longer than needed. But when I left him, when my children were 7 and 10, that was when I met nonviolent communication. And that was a huge relief for me. I studied nonviolent communication. I became a certified trainer alongside working as a farm consultant, as an organic farm advisor. And again, I wondered, why are these farmers not doing what I'm telling them to do? It was such a puzzle for me to meet the same farmers year after year. They talked about all the weeds in their fields, and I said, well, this is very simple. This is what you need to do. And next year, when I came to the same place, they hadn't done it. So I thought, there is something here. And I took a coach education. And then I quit my job as an advisor because I wanted to influence people, not to tell them what to do and then they don't do it. So that was back in 2013. I became self-employed as a coach, as an NVC trainer, nonviolent communication trainer. And it's been like coincidences, it feels like, leading me to where I am today. Most of all, that I was in a group of NVC trainers in Europe who applied for some EU funds, and that was about coaching and nonviolent communication and how could we combine them. And out of the 10 applicants, the 10 countries that applied, only four countries were confirmed. And Denmark was, and I was the only trained coach there. All the great coaches with decades of experience, they didn't become a part of this project. And so I was asked if I would pass on what I just learned. This was right after I'd done my coach training. I called my teacher, trainer, mentor, Martha Leslie, and she said, of course, bring it on, bring it out to the world. And so I did, and I noticed how meaningful it was for me to teach this. And somebody at the first training said, "Hey, can you come to my city and teach it there?" That was in Gdańsk. I did so, and in that very first training in Gdańsk, there was somebody from Warsaw and somebody from Krakow, and so suddenly I had 3 different cities in Poland, and I've traveled a lot to Poland. Especially Gdańsk has been my second home. And that's been where I've developed this coaching program that is now also running as an online education that some of you know about because you've been there. This is so totally rewarding to see you here. Yes, so that is sort of the hard facts, my autobiographical narrative about how I got to sit right here, how I got to meet some of you who invited me here.
Yes. And thank you for sharing. I also learned something I didn't know about you.
Mm.
And the first, I already have something in my mind, which is, you know, sometimes I remember having a time when I thought NVC is the answer to everything. I should just get better in NVC, and then I'll be able to sort out every problem and find a solution and a way forward with anyone. And then I thought, okay, maybe there are more modalities that would be beneficial. So you sort of belong in my classification. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit that I have this internal classification. To people who think that's okay, maybe there is. It's nice to use also other modalities like coaching. So seems like NVC was not enough for you, or why coaching? Or
Yeah.
am I being clear?
Yes, it's such a good question. Yes, why have I been through this phase of finding NVC to be the answer to everything, uh, and why expanding into coaching? Well, I can tell you the exact moment where it dawned to me that NVC was not the answer to everything, which I thought.
Yes, please.
So, in order to certify as a nonviolent communication trainer, one of the requirements is to join at least one IIT, one of these 10 days intensive international trainings. I did that, and that was where Martha Leslie, where she was one of the NVC trainers. And I'd met many trainers through that was over a decade whom I trained with, whom I tried to match in my competency level, whom when they asked me about something, I would think, what's the right way of answering this question? Or what's the right way of posing my request to them? So I came from having some nervousness, especially when I was around those seasoned, wise, competent, nonviolent communication trainers. But there was something about Martha that was so very different. She met me as an equal, no matter how I spoke, no matter what I asked her about. And I had a sense that she was deliberately lifting me and growing me. And it felt so good the way she did it. So she was older than me, taller than me, wiser than me, more educated than me, more experienced in every way. And when she looked at me, I felt we were equals. So when I left that IIT, and I went home and completed my certification, and I had signed up for her newsletter, and it stayed in me. She's got something, and I want that something. I certainly want that. So I signed up for her coaching program. And in the beginning, I hated it because it was not NBC everything. And then I loved it. And then it became everything. And over the course of those 11 months, which it took, um, I got to love it in my own way. Um, and I've actually had students telling me, "What is it you do? It's something when you meet me, it's almost like I meet an equal, even though you have studied more than I have and you have more experience." So I'm noticing that this is something that ripples, and I owe it to Martha, really.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, I both resonate with the experience. I can second what you hear people say about you. And I'm also thinking that when I mention coaching to people, I have the impression that they have the image that pops up in their heads is different from the coaching I'm thinking and from the kind of coaching I experienced with you. So in my experience, also the needs-based coaching is somewhat different from the stereotypic image of coaching of like, okay, what are your goals? Let's get you started. Let's take you out of your comfort zone and something like this. And
Yeah, yeah, I agree that the old school coaching was based on positive psychology. We only talk about what we want, what we've been successful at, and then we get more of that. And that was based in research. It does work. There's just the thing that it doesn't address trauma. And we are all impacted by our traumas in some way. And there are other things that where it simply didn't really suffice in some way. And I think all kinds of coaching has developed over time. And I take regularly courses from other providers, and I notice that there is a lot of richness to it. So coaching as a profession has developed away from yeah, what's your goal and what's your next step, and here's an accountability agreement. But that said, coaching is also a whole umbrella of different coaching schools or coaching approaches. And where needs-based coaching, so the program I'm offering, where that belongs to is sort of in that cluster that we could call transformational coaching, that has borrowed elements from psychotherapy and from healing through conversation and from embodiment. So this is for people who know that um, getting getting closer to the life that they really want takes an inner transformation. It doesn't just take more skills in moving towards what you want.
yes, absolutely. And this is, um, yeah, something that I really appreciate. And it also reminds me of another question or another piece of the topic we wanted to talk about, which was being present with people in hard times and sort of being with the world as it is now. Mm. Well, I'm suddenly overwhelmed with the amount of news I receive every day as soon as I look into my smartphone. And it takes something to find my ground. And I just know that you're passionate with this concept of making a change, contributing to the world, and being with people. So,
Mm.
is there a standpoint or an opinion or something you'd like to share around this topic?
Well, yeah, what a wonderfully complex question. Um, I'd
Yes, we
say
could
when
like
it,
could be three questions.
yeah, I'd say I certainly recognize the flood of news. Uh, some days I can find myself as if I was surfing this wave of disasters and news, and just thinking, oh yeah, I don't know where it takes. What a luxury it is to be born at this exciting time of um, of humankind. And more often, I think I can't take it in my nerves. I need to close all news channels for 48 hours or even more, or I need to just find one single thing to focus on, so that I know that this is the way I'm going. And I'm getting to the essence of your question in a moment. So what I find great comfort in is a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King in that famous speech he held in the 1960s, where he said, "Even if I knew the world would break tomorrow, I would still plant an apple tree today." And that quote is what keeps me going. And my apple tree, apart from the fact that I'm actually living on a farm and I love planting trees, but my metaphorical apple tree is what we're talking about today. It is the connection, and it is like inspiring people to wake up to the fact that we can be each other's midwives. We can midwife each other. We don't need to be in a line for 24 months before we get 5 sessions with a psychologist, because we can, to a large degree, um, liberate each other from those patterns that keep us stuck in the past. And with that liberation from those patterns, then we can act wisely, and everybody can plant their apple tree.
Yes, thank you. I'm just started thinking what it is that keeps me going and something like this. Yeah, now I remember.
Yeah, what keeps you
This
going?
before that, you said this sentence that you don't want people to wait for 2 years to get 5 sessions with psychologists or therapists,
Mhm.
and this sort of resonates with my wish, something that I like about NVC, which is NVC makes it possible to support each other. Like you don't have to be a professional charging money if you can, and yeah, and it could be very meaningful. I mean, it's sort of something about bringing support back to the community level,
Mm.
bringing support back to we can support each other as a family, as friends, as yeah, like sort of become making supporting each other, being with each other, just part of normal life, and not something that's reserved for especially trained, specifically trained people who studied for 10 years, and everyone else, please don't interfere with it.
Yes, 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 yes. It's true. And of course, we do need psychologists and psychotherapists for
Yes,
the cases
absolutely.
that go beyond our everyday support of each other. But if a person is heartbroken because a dream exploded for them, or they lost a pet or a person, or an ability that was very dear to them, then they are not in a crisis, they are in grief. And what they need is not to be referred to somebody who can sit and tell them about the 5 stages of grief, but they need to be held by warm, loving people in their community. But what's so tragic is that many of us get nervous and anxious about how do we support people this way, and what if I'm doing something wrong, and what if it would be better for them to get some medication because they are really, really depressed. So there is something about also shifting the paradigm into understanding the power of accompaniment in our communities and in our close relationships, that this power is huge, and not to be delegated to professionals who've studied at the university for many years.
Yes, and one of the things I do in life is translate, interpret, and occasionally I interpret. well, fairly often I interpret for some kind of psychotherapy trainings. And I also heard that, yes, we need therapists, and it also goes the other way around. Therapists sort of needs, when there is a loving, supporting community around the person who is in therapy, or yes, that hugely, immensely increases their chances for recovering faster.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if we just calculate it, typically a person sees a therapist 1, 2 times a week. And then this is 1 hour out of 7 days of 24 hours. And then the rest of the time they spend with other people. So it, in my vision, it would be just lovely and such a dream if those people were actually had the skills to be with them.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I don't know how it is in all your countries represented here, but in my country, Denmark, there is a lot of public debate about the youth crisis. That a lot of the young people, especially girls or young adults, they don't thrive. And then there are discussions about some scientists found that they are thriving. It's no problem. Don't talk it up. And others say, don't talk it down because this is a real problem. And then they're discussing this, and they're discussing these endlessly long wait lists to get to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And I'm wondering if this approach that I'm wanting to promote here, if that wouldn't be quite helpful for all these youngsters while they are waiting 2 years to see somebody. I think a caring mother, father, aunt, neighbor, school teacher who is actually able to sit very closely with them and say, hey, I'm here and I'm interested in you. What is it you experience? What is it that's very difficult for you to speak about? And no matter how you talk about it or what you say, I'll still be your ally just listening to you. That would be a very good start.
Yes, yes. And would you be willing to say more about the approach you would like to promote? Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. This is my favorite question. I'd actually like to start with a little anecdote. So in that project I talked about where I taught coaching for the first time, we were a group of people. We were NVC practitioners, and I taught them everything I knew about coaching for 6 days, and then we met twice with like 4 or 5 months apart, where I would then add a little bit more, and we would talk about how things went. And so after like 10 months or so after, so that would be the second gathering, I met with two of these guys, my friends from the Danish nonviolent communication community, and we were going to plan how the next gathering should be. And these two men, they didn't know each other beforehand, but they'd known each other for 10 months. And they'd been at this intensive 6 days course. And they sat there and they were baffled. They were amazed when they spoke about it. And they said, you know, this is so amazing. You've taught us just a tiny bit. We are beginners, but we've used these skills on one another, and we are making such a difference for each other in each other's lives. My life has been transformed over these 10 months, and so has mine, they said to each other. That was the very moment I understood the transformational potential in a simple coaching program and in an approach. So these were also NVC practitioners. So there is a whole different approach in NVC, and then to apply coaching on top of it. It's really a cocktail that is like a healing remedy for people. So coming back to your question, the approach is it consists of some skills and most of all a mindset. The skills something about understanding deep um, within my own belief about this person I'm sitting in front of, that they are resourceful. They know better than me what is good for them, what is might be a difficult knot inside of them that needs to be unpacked and resolved in some way. What is an easy step or a stretching step, they know. So my role is to cultivate curiosity and keep asking myself and also asking out loud, how is what this person is saying, how is that making perfect sense? And if it's not making perfect sense, what is it I don't know about this person? And if I knew it, then it would make perfect sense. So that's the curiosity that that people learn through needs-based coaching, and I hope those of you who've been there that you can confirm this. I see you nodding. Thank you, Kasia. Very helpful. um, so that's one thing. Then there is some basic knowledge that I believe is necessary, which is about how the nervous system operates. That human beings and all other animals with a spine, so that's a lot. I mean, it's not worms, but it's birds as well, and lots of animals. They have two different brain hemispheres, and they represent a different perception of the world. So for humans, we can call it the instrumental brain and the relational brain. And once we understand this, then we start noticing uh, when people operate from the instrumental paradigm, which we do a lot. Can you make me a cup of coffee? Yes, yes, I can. How strong do you want it? What kind of milk do you want in it? Very instrumental. Or the relational brain. How are you? Um, and it's from the relational brain. We need to cultivate our own ability to operate in relationships from the relational brain, and to recognize in ourselves when we step out of it and know how we can step back into it, because that's where this alchemy can happen, when two souls, two hearts connect on a relational level. Something can then start to melt and be reshaped. Am I in any way making sense here?
Yes. So a combination of believing that a human being is a resourceful, full of resources, has this the beauty and strength and power and wisdom inside, knowing, being trauma informed, and being informed about how the brain works.
Yes,
Would you say these are the main components?
yes, yes. Um, yeah, and I would add one thing. So I'm sometimes using the term window of welcome for emotions, and this is, as a lot of other things I'm teaching, coming from Sarah Payton, who's also a nonviolent communication trainer, and she's made it her specialty to understand brain research and broadcast it in an understandable language, so that non-academics like myself can understand what she's talking about, and that we can use it. So she's talking about the window of welcome for emotions. And it's good to know that we have different emotional networks in our brain and nervous system, and to recognize them and to recognize where our own emotional networks might be blocked, and to very gently and quite deliberately work on dissolving those blocks. Then we can sit with a person in grief or in anger or in loneliness without wanting to fix them as soon as possible, because we can actually accompany them into it instead of trying to change it. And that accompaniment is as far as I understand, the main component in human development, in us coming to terms with ourselves, with dissolving the traumas we have been exposed to. That's that unwavering, unconditional presence from another person who has sort of cleansed their own emotional system enough so that they're able to sit with a person in intense emotions.
So
Yes.
you have talked about the mindset. Uh, can you say a few words about the skills? Because you said that there are some things we can actually do in everyday conversations where we don't necessarily have to take a training, even though taking training is wonderful. But can you talk about the skills that we can just use in everyday conversations?
Yes, yeah. So in the training, I present 32 different skills and how to just, well, actually in the very short, compressed weekend version of needs-based coaching, the coaching essentials, I'm presenting 8 skills and they would be good to have. And this is either 3 days online or 2 days at a weekend workshop. And with that, people can go out and really make a difference in the world, even if they didn't have anything else than that. And these skills, so the cultivation of asking questions, asking open-ended questions, that's an important one because that plays the ball over to the other person's court. And rather than assuming or presenting an idea that the other person can say yes or no to, but simply asking open-ended and opening this, it's almost like standing beside the person we are supporting and saying, where do you want to go? I'll go with you. So there is some skill in these questions. And you might think, what? Well, a little hint, we don't use the question why, because that takes usually people away from the experiential and into the more cognitive. And we want our person to stay in the experiential realm as much as possible. So we ask questions beginning with what and how, and we keep them short. We listen. So listening is a different skill. We listen on 3 different channels. So we listen to what they say and what they show with their body language, but we also listen to ourselves and let ourselves be a resonance board for what the client shares, so that once our subconscious mind starts getting what the other person is talking about, then we can retrieve information about what it's like to be them from our own body. And that makes it easier for us to be with them, resonate with them. And we can listen for emergence, for what's about to change here. And another important skill is to keep a bit of leadership in these conversations, so that they have a beginning and they have a body of exploration and experience, and then they have a closure, and then they have a so what's next, a tiny bit in the end. So those asking questions, listening, and structuring the session through a little bit of conscious leadership in it, I'd say those are some of the really important skills.
I'll ask you a bit of a provocative question because a lot of what you have been talking about is especially that going within is about self-discovery. So why is it important for the other person to be next to me, to be my midwife, so to say?
Yes. Oh, this is such a profound question. I'd like to reference a scientist here. So James A. Cohen, Coan, James A. Cohen. He's a relationship scientist or something. I'm not sure what he calls his field, but what he's developed is something he calls social baseline theory. And this is about when do people feel good, basically. And not to go too deeply into his research, one thing he's found is that if a sample person, one of his people in his experiments, if they are being exposed to pain of some kind, I don't know what, a needle punching, piercing their skin or something, and they are to rate the pain on a scale from 1 to 10, then they do this rating. If they are accompanied by a stranger, same pain, they will rate the pain lower. If they are accompanied by a person whom they trust, they rate the pain significantly lower. And this has been repeated in a number of different trial setups, like how steep is this hill? How heavy is this load? How exhausted are you? As soon as there is accompaniment, and especially from a very trusted person, we are more resourced. And perhaps I'll just encourage everybody to take a moment, and I'm sure you know this is true, that there are just moments when holding somebody's hand just makes it easier to go through something really challenging. So that means that when we, as coaches, as a caring, loving support person, when we step into that tender, loving, ever accepting presence with another person, then they can access difficulties or pain or dilemmas in a different way than they can on their own. And we can propel their exploration forward, but that's even not the most important. The most important is simply just our presence and our acceptance of what happens.
One last question to you from me before we give the floor to our participants, so you can get your questions ready, because this is one of a lifetime opportunity to ask questions to Pernille. You talked about leadership, but also at the beginning you were talking about partnership. So where do we find the balance between this, that we want to be conscious how we shape our conversation, but at the same time we want to stay open to what the other person brings and follow them?
Yes. Oh, thank you for asking this question also. Yeah, so when I'm using the word leadership, this is really understanding the leader as the servant of a purpose. So it's not leadership in the way that I'm the authority and I know what's good for you. So the leader as the servant means we wouldn't ever conduct a supportive conversation, whether we're coaches or colleagues or family members, without having consent from the other person to do so. So the moment I ask, and it could be as simple as, may I ask you some questions about this? Then I have an agreement that it's okay. I step into this. And that's when I step into leadership. And I want to know where the other person would like to go. So then I might ask, where would you really love this, whatever dilemma, what you shared with me? Where would you like to be regarding this issue in, let's say, half an hour from now, or as long as we have? And so if the person says, I'd like to make a decision, or I'd like to make peace, or I'd like to have some inspiration, those three different answers would take the conversation in three very different directions, because I would remember this as the support person, and I would very gently sort of invite. It's almost like I've got this torchlight in the darkness of the forest and standing right beside the other person, and then I'm sort of, that's the direction where I'm pointing this torchlight so that we can see the path.
So now I invite other people who would like to ask questions, and there is a wonderful function on Zoom of this icon that you can raise your hands, which we can use if there will be many people wanting to talk at the same time, or you can simply also unmute yourself.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say that I've been sharing a lot, which some of it might be new to you. So if there is a little, just a little desire or a longing for you to just take a breath of air and just let a bit of it sink and perhaps notice what of everything I've shared so far, what might have been more provoking or more inspiring, then take that moment. I'm in no way concerned about silence in our space here.
Absolutely. I think we are trying to create a space where we have the space also for silence and for thinking, because sometimes you talked about emergence, so some questions also need to emerge in a way.
Yeah.
So yes, and as Matthew wrote on the chat, you can also write your question on the chat, and you will we'll make sure that Pernille gets the questions. So you can either speak up, or you can write the question also on the chat, or you can write it in a message to Mati. So there are different options of asking questions.
I have a question, if I may.
Of course.
I'm very, very happy that that we are meeting today, and I'm very curious about the midwiving process, because I understand, if I understand correctly, that we can support each other, and I would really like to understand how how not to how not to rush. You know, I have two children, so I had two different experiences giving birth to them. One was really gentle and welcoming, and every time I go back with the memories, I feel very good about it. And then the second child, I felt the doctor rushed me. You know, the doctor really wanted to go off the shift with the baby written down that it was born. Anyway, it was completely different experience. So how, like, could you give me advice what not to do in order not to push, not to be too harsh? You know, um, let the emergence happen on its own rather than force it.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I guess even with the same client or the same person we support, and you and I would, if that is a very hypothetical question, if you and I would start supporting them from scratch, it would be different processes, and there would be a different movement forward. I guess what I'm learning, and I'm certainly still a learner in this field when I'm supporting people, it is to really pay attention to the subtle signs that the supported person is sending. Like if they move just 2 centimeters back from the screen, okay, I might have been too pushy, too fast. And I might ask, did this question come too fast, or did it go in a direction you didn't enjoy? Or I would simply just respect it and wait for the person to come back. So I'd pay attention to these small movements, even on the screen. I don't know if this is the full answer, but it's certainly along the way.
Because I know you can do it. You've been doing it for many years now, and you teach others how to do it. And at the same time, if I understand correctly, tonight this meeting was about inviting each other to be very present and to support ourselves. You know, and if I don't need to have the full training, how can I be support you? How can I? It's for my personal growth.
Yeah. It's about moving away from doing and into the being, really. So here's another quote. Gosh, my brain is delivering quotes for me all the time here, and this is one of my absolute favorites. Carl Rogers, this big psychologist who was the teacher of Marshall Rosenberg and Jean Gentlin and Abraham Maslow and several others about 80 years ago. He said, when he was an old man, "In my early years, I asked myself, how can I treat or cure or heal this person? Now," he continued, "I'm instead asking myself this question: how can I create a relationship which this person can use for their personal healing and growth?" So if we, and this is paradoxical, because we enter this space of a conversation because we want to contribute. We can see our dear friend is in pain about something, so we want to do something, and we need to put that aside, that desire to contribute. And the only thing we enter the space with is our desire to connect, to have to have this relationship of trust that this person can use for their own personal healing. And then with some very discreet skills, like as in structuring the conversation a little bit and making sure all loose ends are tied, and making sure we actually hear them and checking with them if we have consent. And if there is more, we can always ask, what else would you like me to know about this? And what else? And what else might be bothering you? That's such a wonderful question. Another wonderful question is, and what's important about it? Yeah, what else is important? We come a long way just with those few questions and with our intention to be present.
Thank you. That really answers it.
Mm.
And I noticed that the connection was stable, and like the double meaning of connection, connection between me and the other, and how often it's being broken because my thoughts take me somewhere else. How difficult it is to stay present. And it's sometimes easier to say than do.
Yes, and gosh, we are all learners. We are all humans. So I dream of communities where we know we have this intention to support each other, and we also know that everybody is sometimes falling off the horse in some way, but that we then support each other. So if I've had this conversation with you and afterwards I thought, this wasn't really helpful. Oh, yeah, there was something I got a bit convincing at some point. That then instead I could call Magdalena and I could say, Magdalena, will you help me sort this out? I wouldn't name your name, Kasia, but I would just say I had a conversation with this person and there was something that just didn't work out really well. Would you like to support me in finding out what the heck happened? And I might find out that 20 minutes into the conversation, it wasn't you I was hearing, it was my sister. Oh gosh, and I've got still so much unresolved with her. So suddenly I was replying to you as if you'd been her. And Magdalena will help me see it. And she will, just through her presence and a few curious questions, and I'll realize, oh yeah, okay, now I can separate. Might there be something I want to talk to my sister about? There might be. And next time I speak to Kasia, I can see her.
Wonderful, but we need a village, because I understood when when this title of today's meeting arrived, that is about connection of two people, but actually we need be interwoven. We need to be like a carpet. We cannot exist with just one empathy body.
Certainly, yes. We need, and now in this globalized world and with the so many of our meetings happening online, I would say village has gotten a slightly different meaning. So, I mean, this could be the extended village as well. We have our communities, and we need to cultivate them, to nourish them, prioritize them.
Somebody wrote on the chat that that connection can be a contribution. So
Yeah, certainly, yes.
I want to check if there's anyone else in the room who would like to maybe ask a question. You are free to do it if you would like to. If not, we can always count on Kasia for having pertinent questions. But if not, you might want to think. But Pernille, could you maybe talk more about this listening, because you mentioned listening on different levels. And I think this is also quite important, because when we learn to practice nonviolent communication, we learn about the value of listening. But what is so special in this listening that you try to promote or teach?
Yeah, thank you. Usually we have this sense that when we're sitting and talking to someone, if we suddenly disappear out of a tangent in our own thoughts, then we've been a bad person, a bad support person, because I should be totally present with this person all the time. And the big relief is that no, we can actually use and benefit from those detours our own mind sometimes takes spontaneously. I'm not in favor of daydreaming while you're sitting with somebody who's sharing something difficult for them. So I'm certainly not, it's certainly not that. But I'm in favor of running a little bit of surveillance on your own body sensations and thoughts, and the pictures that might come up for you, and see them as messages from my, if it's me, from my own inner system that could be linked to this person. It could also be suddenly I see my groceries list and I'd say, okay, I'll park that. Yes, it's important. I remember mayonnaise. My lunch is just not the same without mayonnaise. So certainly, thank you. And I might even write an M in my notebook or something. But most often it's different kinds of input that comes. So it could be associations that can be very helpful while we're sitting with this person. It can be a way to shed new light on what they're experiencing. And it could be messages about their emotional experience, which they might be holding back. So how would I use that? Well, either I might not use it, just know, okay, could it be that this person is experiencing some shame of bringing this topic up? Or I could say, I'm wondering if I may ask about an intuitive sense I just got. Does shame play a role here? And I'm usually adding after this question, and if it doesn't, please just wipe it away, and it must be something from my own system. And you'd be surprised to see how often it is right in the bullseye, actually. That if we enter this space with the intention to resonate on the same energy level or emotional level as the other person, then we become, certainly not fully, but to some degree, we share a little bit of our emotional field. It wasn't easy for me 10 years ago, but I've cultivated this ability to feel into this field and to dare ask. And that's the way to calibrate it.
There is a request on the chat if you could talk more about facing your power. Like, what is it about this power thing and about accompanying others?
Yeah, so power in general, or especially this power of accompaniment?
think it's in the context of changing the world, and
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was a question from on the chat from Mahida Jean, if I'm pronouncing the name right.
Yeah.
Yes. The title of this talk was "Facing Your Power to Change the World."
Yeah. Thank you.
So, in that context.
Yes, thank you. Okay, yes, that's true. That was the title we ended on. Right. So this is it's about letting go of a belief that each of us basically are insignificant, that we don't have it doesn't make any change in the world, whatever we do or don't do. To change that belief and changing it into what is happening right here between the two of us, or in this group of people, or within myself. That is the center of the universe right now. And what happens here will change the direction of the future, even on ever so microscopic level, because, I mean, a tsunami consists of I don't know how many atoms or molecules of water. So does each molecule of water count? Yes, they do. They each count equally. There's no molecule that counts more than anybody else, but it's together that they count. And this is the power we have, that we can create this wave of compassionate understanding of ourselves and others, and the willingness and the courage to step into claiming that significance. Okay, and here's my dream. Would it be okay that I share my dream here? And this is actually not something I've invented. Again, I want to reference whom I got it from. So the co-creator of that coaching program I took, it was Martha Leslie, and then her partner was Virginia Kellogg. And Virginia's great vision, that was when there were 7 billion people in the world. Now we're closer to 8, I think. But she had a slogan that she used ever so often, coaching the 7 billion people. So her vision was that the coaching mindset and a simple skill set would reach every village on this earth. And I share this vision. Imagine that now you've heard this, you go this evening or rest of this day or tomorrow into your next conversation in a slightly different way. And you begin owning this power to be a molecule in a tsunami. And you have ripple effects. So others around you do the same. And eventually, we will touch everything in the world. I think is it through 7 connections we can reach everybody in the world? Perhaps with a few exceptions of villages that are very, very far away from everything. I don't know. But yeah, more or less 7 connections. It's possible. It is our power. And if we don't recognize or acknowledge our own power or don't claim it, then we give our power away to the big companies to make money over anything else. That would be sad, wouldn't it?
Before giving the floor to Tarja, I just want to make sure, does that answer a bit the question about the power to change the world? I see a sign that it does. So Darja, please.
Yes, I actually wanted to build on that and sort of share.
You speak very low.
That
Oh,
no.
try.
Sorry.
Yeah, sounds like it's better now.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to build on this. And yeah, honestly, I'm not a visioneer, if I even pronounce this word correctly. When people ask me what's my dream, what's my vision, I go like, what kind of dream are you talking about? What kind of vision are you talking about? So let's just say I struggle with it. And listening to you, I remember that recently I'm very inspired with the practice of with people I support and with myself. Often there's a situation which seems like very hard to solve, very hard to tackle. And then there are two roads to take. One is to ask, what's the problem? How can I dig into the roots of the problem and sort it out? And great approach. It just takes some time in my experience and skills and resources there. And another way is to ask, okay, what could support me? What would be necessary for me to do it? What kind of support would I need to be able to do it? And when I started asking these questions myself, it was a real game changer for me. And I'm still surprised with when people I listen to, very often there is something they come up with in response to this question. So yeah, I just thought that this could be another way how
Yes.
coaching mindset might be of use in this topic.
Yes. So I
And
really like
hello,
to.
Matilda. Very
Oh,
happy
sorry.
you are with us. That's it. I'm complete.
Okay, sorry for interrupting you. I got a bit eager when I heard your question because this is so important. What you just said, that it's not necessarily either or, but it's really both. So if we only look at the problem, it's almost like then next week we found another expansion of this problem, and then we need to work on that, and then we need to expand into a different deepening of the problem. So that can be almost like occupying our minds, and we get this looking for the problem mindset, which is okay to do in periods, but with the coaching mindset, we won't stay there. I would always ask, so what are you walking away with from this conversation, or what did you gain? And then afterwards I'd say, so from this point, how will this difference manifest in your life over the next 24 or 48 hours? So this is when I'm coaching clients. If it was in a like more colloquial setting, I might ask it more street-ish, like, so what are you going to do about it? Or how's this going to, but basically the content of it is what we just talked about, and that you realized, how will this inform what happens next? And this could also be linking it to the person's personal superpowers or to their aspirations, so that we get a different direction from just deepening even further down into what's difficult. It might be that we do that anyway, but that is in order to gain a direction forward so that we can have an impact in this world.
Yes, thank you for putting it so beautifully. And I imagine there, at least in my vision, there is a third piece to it, which would be something about being able to sit with grief, confusion, and despair. And
Yes.
yeah, a sense of helplessness, which at
Yeah.
least I think I'm better at it, and I still struggle with it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is this interesting paradox that both has to do with ourselves and when we sit with somebody else, that once we are able to accept ourselves or accept the other's state totally as it is, then movement is possible. But as long as we try to force the movement, there is a kind of return mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to check if people have comments, questions, thoughts, anything you would like to share.
I have a question about rituals, if you have any rituals that support you.
Resources,
Rituals, like,
rituals. Oh, sorry.
yes.
Yeah, I've got a few. So now I'm working as a professional coach, so it's quite profound sessions we often have. And after a session, I have a piece of dark chocolate. So that's one little ritual. That's my way of just letting that session go and preparing for a possible next session. So that would be a very simple everyday ritual. I have somebody I exchange coaching with, so that I'm sure I'm still fluid and moving in my own life. But that's not really a ritual. I don't know. Are you having anything in particular in mind?
I was just wondering, like, and I already like what you shared. It brought me smile on my face.
Mm,
And since
thank
you're
you.
mentioning that you are also receiving support, I'm also wondering, like, because often it seems in today's world that there is this idea that we can become self-sustainable or independent, and so I would like to ask you how often or how regularly you ask for your own support, or
Mm. Including my wife, I would say close to every day. So she has practiced a lot of what I'm sharing here along with me. So she is my very first go-to person. And of course, I'm never sharing something that is referable to any specific person. I take confidentiality very, very seriously. But I can tell her I had this situation. Will you listen to me? So that I sort of, through her presence and listening, I get to sort myself out. And then I've got a coach whom I've coached with for, well, we are entering our 13th year. So we're meeting regularly and exchanging coaching and supervision. And then I've got, this is what's so wonderful about my profession that I know I share with several of you, that those professional connections we make, we have a collaboration about a certain project or something, or organizing and teaching and all this. And then it starts with being professional connections, and then it gradually deepens into true friendships. And I've got quite a few of these. And this is where we always start with a check-in. And sometimes the check-in becomes a session in itself because there is a need for it. And we check, so is it okay if we spend a bit longer on this? Yes, it's okay. So in that way, I can't tell how often I receive supervision, but I can tell that I walk around with something I need supervision or support for a very short time. I mean, we're talking about a few days maximum before I'm actually getting that. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. Getting that holding or that. Okay, I'll mute myself. Ask another question.
uh, yeah. So I'm happy that we hear also the voice of your dog. Uh, that he is also present or she's present, and I wonder now if everything that you shared today, if you can also relate this to conversation with other animals or living beings, or
Great question. I've never thought about that, but actually, what is happening in my life just these days is that my sheep are having their lamps. And the last one had her lamps yesterday, and she doesn't accept one of them. So she needs to be held quite tightly while one of them is sucking. And for me, I had a little bit technical approach. Okay, so if I hold that leg and then I put the lamp there and I tickle it on its tail, then it starts sucking. But my wonderful partner, my wife, she started speaking to the sheep. And she said, yes, you got not just one lamb, you got two. How surprising. All these things happening to you. And so she had a 15 minutes resonance session with the sheep. And I could tell that the sheep just relaxed. Today it's much better. And it's almost like when I have been with that sheep every second hour today, and I'll go there during the night as well, then I'm hearing these words, yes, what a surprise. What a surprise. You're okay. It's not so easy to be an adult sheep from having been a lamb before. It's her first lambs, obviously. So I think this is the short answer to your question is yes. Because I'm not sure about mosquitoes and bees, but mammals, they share to a large degree the same brain as we do. They have the same emotional brain. My dog is not a very good therapy dog. When somebody cries, he would get his best toys and try to distract the crying person. But he certainly is present with the gifts that he has.
Pernille, could you also say maybe a few words about the things you offer? Because I think it's also inspiring to, you mentioned a bit some things that, for example, the kind of support you get, but maybe it would be also nice to hear about where to meet you in other places in your teaching role.
Yes. Oh, thank you. What a gift to have a chance to share this. Yeah. So most of my activities when it comes to teaching happens through the Needs-Based Coaching Institute. And I want to say a few offerings there. What's coming up from the 24th of April and 10 weeks forward is a workshop series, 2 hours every day. In European timing, it's from 9 to 11 in the morning. In New Zealand timing, it's from 7 to 9 in the evening. And I will co-facilitate along with my New Zealand colleague, Anya Banas, who is a parent family relationship expert of some kind, if it's convenient to use that word. But this is where we mix nonviolent communication with coaching, with child development theory, with neurobiology, and with a lot of experiences and practices and holding of the people who are present. Because parenting, as well as teaching children, is just really challenging. So I'm very happy to be able to offer this series with her, and you'll find the link in that the link I just sent. If you go to upcoming events, you will find it. Kids at Heart is the name. Something else we have is actually 4 different versions of coaching essentials. There are 3 physical ones, one in Denmark in a month, one in London just this weekend, I think it is, one in Vienna in June, and then one online in April, 7th to 9th of April. So the online version, which is probably most convenient for most of you, is 3 days of 6 hours online. It won't be me teaching. It'll be my very close colleague and dear friend, Kerstin Kloser-Pitcher, who will teach that. And that is a very compressed version or selection of what we do in the long needs-based coaching course. The long course, the 5.5 months course, begins 16th of June, and you can also find that on the webpage. And apart from that, I offer session work, and I have an offer that usually goes to festival participants. So meaning if you already have had some exposure to me, then you might like to go directly into having an experience of a session with me. So you would go here. Yeah, it takes a little bit of explanation. You can always book a half-hour session with me to check out if the chemistry feels good and to see if we want to be a good match working with each other. That's free. Feel free to find it. But this festival and summit offering, that is slightly different because that is going directly into session work. And I charge you 25 euros for it. And if you sign up for a follow-up session, I'll subtract those 25 euros. So if you know you have something you'd like to work on, that might be a good thing. And you would choose, I think it's quite intuitive if you go to that Business by Heart as me. It's my booking page, and one of the options says something like intro session for summit and festival participants. But you can also take the other one, like getting to know each other, 30-minute session. If you want to do that. So why do I charge for it and then pay the money back? Well, because I've sometimes spoken at summits and festivals, and once there were 54 people signing up for one of those free 30-minute sessions with me, which meant that none of my usual clients could find a place for 1.5 months in my calendar. It was totally booked, and I don't want that to happen again. So then it's people who are a bit serious about it. So, and you can always take that half hour with no depth work, but only with let's get to know each other, which is free. So I think this covers pretty much what's in the pipeline for me. Oh, I'm actually speaking at Sarah Payton's Resonant Healing Summit, which runs from 4th to 8th April, I think. I have a session on the circuits of emotion with a special welcome to disgust. So that is totally free to attend. There are lots of cool, very, very cool, very, very interesting sessions and keynote speakers who are researchers, and there is even access to recordings up to a week after. And thank you, Matti, for sharing that. Yeah, some of you who are here, I know you from her world, which is very sweet to have that in common as well.
Yes, we have heard a few some of the vocabulary that feels like Sarah Payton, resonance, wisdom of welcome. Yes, could you maybe say a few words why this approach is so important and how it can? I mean, you talked a bit about the quality of conversations we can have, but maybe I want to ask one more time because I know it's one of your topics you talk often on.
Yeah. So Sarah's work is deep healing of traumas. She's not propagating exactly the same as I do, because I'm saying, like, take it out, let it ripple everywhere. And for the work we do with Sarah is more targeted to resolving our own traumas so that we can be more of help in this world that needs so much as it does. But I've taken her whole attitude and what I've learned from her about this quality of presence, this attunement, as she calls it, to make that inhabit us when we are in a close conversation with someone. And an example of that is that now when I'm broadcasting to a group of people, I'm not doing it. But whenever I'm sitting with a client or having a relational conversation with someone in my life, I do this just in a glimpse of an eye. I ask myself, am I willing to open myself to this person, even to be changed by this person? And am I willing to remain myself as I do so? So That would be like a 5 minutes meditation when I did it in the beginning. And now it's just been a state of being that I step into so that I can leave the rest of the world out as long as the duration of this conversation, whether it's a 2 minute or 1.5 hour session, but that I'm here. I've opened a channel. I've opened myself to this person. That's what I learned from her. Huge impact she's had on my personal life and my professional life, certainly.
MK has written on the chat that I celebrate the opportunity to greet disgust. I've been drawn to developing a welcome to disgust. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like saying a little bit about disgust. I mean, disgust is like the enfant terrible, the unwelcome feeling for so many of us. If you are brought up like I was, you've probably been told, don't make up that face when you're eating your food, or eat that food. Don't make all those stories, and you just eat it. Be happy that there's food on your plate. So at a very early age, I really detached my disgust circuit to a degree where I sometimes have eaten half-rotten food because I thought I was not allowed to say, hey, this doesn't taste well. And then when the next person tasted it, it was like, how awful this is. Did you eat that? Oh, double shame. But we can welcome our disgust. And as we do that, it's not just about food, it's about everything that is invading upon us. So if a person steps over our boundaries with a healthy disgust circuit, we will notice and we will know how to say, hey, stop. I'm not enjoying that. But with an unhealthy or a non-existing disgust circuit or not connected disgust circuit, we'll just let it happen and we'll suffer greatly.
Mahida reminds us about this question that you mentioned. Am I willing to be open to this person? Am I willing to be changed by this person? I think we can go to our conversations after this meeting with this question. Are there any other questions from today's meeting that you would like to remember? I love your exercise, Pernille, that you often ask the participants during your trainings what they remember from the day back.
Yes.
So here I will rephrase the question. Are there any questions you remember from this meeting? You can either answer now or think about that when you leave. So I think we are slowly coming to an end, unless there is some burning question that has emerged.
Magdalena, there is a question about the date of the Discuss presentation in the chat.
I had it on my phone, so I've just posted it.
Okay, so let me say it out loud. Pernille is going to speak at the summit on Friday, Friday, 4th of July. No, that doesn't.
4th of July,
right.
gosh. April.
4th of April, sorry, at 7:30 p.m. Yeah, and I think that's when your presentation during the summit will be. And I'm looking at the chat if I have missed any other questions.
And I'm really curious to know what stands out for you that you're taking away from this conversation. That would be a very sweet little dessert for me from when we hang up here.
Yes, I think somebody wrote on the chat, but okay, let me just find this because I think it was an important. I cannot find it right now, but it was that we can, if I will paraphrase it, that we can change our conversations from to relational conversations. So we kind of changed because we are used to being, you know, I have to do this, I have to do that, the effect.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Happy that you're taking this away. And I want to say to those of you who listen to this, who are not present here, it might be after these different offerings we've just been talking about, after they have happened. So please go to needsbasedcoaching.com and see what else we have in the pipeline if you are interested to learn more about this approach.
Absolutely. We will have the recording and you will have the time, you know, to all of this to sink in.
I would like to say one more thing before we finish this meeting. I want to really express my gratitude to you, Pernille, for being here and for doing the work you do. And Maida said in the chat that we all have power. And I really want to believe that and never underestimate the power which we have. And it doesn't have to, like, we don't need any skills. We can be just present to each other. And I remember the moment when a friend of mine who I meet regularly, who didn't go through any training, she just asked me one simple question. Think about what story are you telling yourself? And that was a big shift for me from being really low into moving back to life. So I'm very grateful for the fact that you shared that idea, Pernille. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being present here, and especially thank you to the organizers. No, not especially. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the organizers. Yeah, it was actually, this is the first time I've had a chance to unfold this cosmology of mine this way. And I was a little bit anxious of whether this would be congruent and coherent and whether people would get it. And right now I'm feeling good and I'm seeing some nodding faces. Thank you very much. Yes. So I hope we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for finding time, and really everyone.
Thank you, Pernille. Thank you, the organizers, Katrina, Matti, Magdalena, and I missed one, but I forgot the name.
Yeah. It's hard to leave, right? Lars, I would like to hear from you if how you found this and who you are. And you can write to me afterwards if you want to. I can't hear you. I muted you. Yeah.
Here.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm here. If it's okay, I'll share here. I've been trained by Kirsten Christensen in this LiveCom for a year, and I attended the India 25 IIT, and I'm feel like a changed person. So everything you said about connection with other people made me heal. I had depression and stress and ADHD, or what's called ADHD. I'm not feeling that so much anymore. So it really helped me heal this IIT and the
wonderful.
training in Denmark also. So it's not my last IIT, so I will follow this community of NVC
You are in the fast track, certainly. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Lars, for letting me know and for being here.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
we can talk in another day if you want to, so I can tell you more about it. So
Always happy. Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So would now be a good time to stop the recording, for instance?
Do that.